Thank you, Madam Chair. You are now live.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the June 17th, 2021 meeting of the Community Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee. I will be your host for this morning, Lisa Blackburn, and let's introduce the table this morning, starting with our Vice Chair, Councillor Sam Austin.
I am here, having a little trouble with my buttons this morning.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And Councillor Lovelace, are you with us? Don't see her on the... All right, we'll catch up with her later, perhaps. Councillor Trish Purdy.
Good morning, Madam Chair and fellow colleagues. Good to be here. Ready for the meeting.
Beautiful. Thank you. Nice splash pad you got there. Councillor Lindell Smith, good morning.
Good morning. Great to see you again. Happy to be here.
It's been so long. Perfect. Glad to have you. And I understand that we may have a couple of special guests. Councillor Wei Mason and Councillor Paul Russell might be popping in a little later on. And I understand that Councillor Patty Cuddle will be joining us a little later on in the meeting. So seeing that we have a quorum, we're going to proceed. Number 2 on the agenda, looking for the approval of the minutes from the May 20th, 2021 meeting. Can I have a mover, please?
I'll move that, Ms. Chair.
All right, moved by Vice Chair Sam Austin. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Smith, thank you very much. All those in favor of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Contraminded, nay. All right, the minutes have passed. Approval of the order of business and approval of additions and deletions. Mr. Clerk, do we have any additions or deletions this morning?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have no requests for additions through the clerk's office. However, the presentation for 10.3.1 proposals to the charter provisions to the Halifax Common, that presentation request we've not managed to confirm with the presenters. So we would propose that be deferred to the next meeting in order to give us time to confirm that presentation request.
All right, beautiful. So looking for the approval of the order of business as amended.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Purdy, seconded by Councillor Austin. Thank you very much. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contraminded, nay. All right, motion carried. Beautiful. Business arising out of the minutes. There is none. Item number 5 calls for declaration of conflict of interest. Now is your moment if there's something that's keeping you up at night and you need to declare it. All right, seeing none, we will move on to motions of reconsideration. There are none. We don't have any motions of rescission, and there is no consideration of deferred business. Notices of tabled matters, there are none as well. Correspondence, petitions, and delegations. Mr. Clerk, do we have any correspondence for today's meeting?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe the correspondence has all been circulated, and I believe it is at this time confined to the presentation request.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much. Petitions. Do we have any petitions from either the clerk's office or members of the committee? Not seeing any. All right. We will move on. Presentations. We have deferred 10.3.1. And so now we are looking for item 11, information items brought forward. And 11.1 is case 22257, the regional plan review, the themes and directions report. I think now we will move on to, do we have Kate Green, I think, is going to be doing the presentation.
I think we're just here to answer questions on the presentation from last week.
Gotcha. Oh, that's right. This was an information item brought forward. Excellent. All right. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was Councillor Lovelace that had asked for this to be brought forward. And she is not here this morning. So do we have any other members of committee with questions on the themes and directions report? I think we've all seen it a couple of times by now. So if there are any questions, just put your name in the chat and we will get to your questions. And not seeing any in the chat. Anybody raised hands? No. All right. Geez, Kate, we might have brought you out here for nothing today.
Wait,
Chair, Councillor Smith.
Oh, Councillor Smith, thank you very much.
I was typing, then I was spelling things wrong, then I wanted to click raise
Oh,
my
no.
hand, and then I was like, she didn't ask for raise hand, so I might get in trouble if I do that. I panicked.
Sorry. Don't panic. Don't panic. All right. You've got a question, Councillor Smith. Go ahead.
So all I was going to say is I think also Councillor Cuddle wanted to ask some questions as well. She said she's going to be late. So I'm wondering if we should move this down to, I'm not sure until when, but she said she was going to be late. Or Councillor Cuddle mentioned that she was going to be late and Councillor Lovelace might come late too. And you know, I know Kate has a lot to do, but I feel like one of them did ask for this to be brought forward. I can't remember who, but I know for sure.
Yeah.
That
All right. Well, let's push pause on this then, and with apologies to Kate and team, we'll put you on the back burner for a few minutes and return to this item if Councillor Cuddle and Councillor Lovelace pop into the meeting. All right. My apologies. Thank you so much for your patience. So then we will move on to item 12. Reports, and there are none for today. Motions 13.1 from Councillor Austin, HRM-wide Parks Advisory Committee. Councillor Austin, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. You know, I almost feel like I should just wax and wane here a little bit to buy Councillor Cuddle and Lovelace maybe a little extra time. These motions, both of them are actually coming from Councillor Mason. It is the I am the humble vessel for his work here since he's no longer actually part of our committee. But he and I have talked a fair bit about 13.1. So I'll put the motion forward. I move that the Community Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee request a staff report regarding possible options and opportunities to create an HRM-wide Parks Advisory Committee.
Do we have a seconder for that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Smith. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Councillor Austin. Give us some framework on this one.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. So this is something we've been talking about for a while offline about. As you know, basically we've got a lot of inequity in our park system right now. If you go to Point Pleasant Park, you've got a Point Pleasant Park Advisory Committee. It's made up of citizen representatives. You know, I believe the meetings are public and have the opportunity for public participation, like at most of our meetings. And so that exists at Point Pleasant Park. You know, you've got a couple others like Western Common, but then you have other parks that don't have any sort of formal structure at all. And I mean, there's a lot. This is primarily little neighborhood parks, but there are some significant parks in our system. I think of Needham in Councillor Smith's area, or Shuby, or the Dartmouth Common. I mean, it's very haphazard, our current approach. And so the thought is that we should have a region-wide park advisory body where you'd have the opportunity, you have some citizen representatives, and you'd have the opportunity for a little bit more engagement with staff, with council, and a bit of a forum for the public to have some feedback directly on park issues. I don't know about you, Ms. Chair. I mean, or Councillor Smith, you've got the same year's experience that I do, but I find often with park issues, you're sometimes left making decisions somewhat blind, or by instinct is probably the more, or anecdote is probably the more accurate description. You know, you don't have hard data, so then it's like, well, what's the, as I'm looking at making a change here in this neighborhood park, what's the best outcome? And oftentimes we rely on actually the local councilor kind of tapping into the community to try and get some feedback on it. So this would be a way to provide some structure to look at things from a region-wide perspective. I think it's time for us to take a look at this in the same way that we do with many of our other advisory committees. Thank you, Ms. Chair.
Right. Thank you, Vice Chair. And Councillor Smith, you had a comment.
Yeah, I support this, and I've had this discussion previously too, and even when Brad was director, me and Brad talked about this as well. So as this report is being written, and I'm not sure if usually we don't get comments from staff, and I don't know if we need to get any, but the only concern I have of thinking, and luckily we have a beautiful region where we have many parks, much green space, and I do think of how we will either recruit members, the size of the advisory committee or whatever it might turn out to be with the report comes. Do we need to have two? Do we need to have an urban and a suburban rural? I don't know, because again, there's, as Councilor Austin just mentioned, there's a lot of nuances between these parks, and to ask me in the urban setting to talk about a park that might be in the rural setting, I know nothing about it, and I'll be relying on that member or possible other members to give those comments. So maybe in the report there could be options of, if it's not one, maybe it's multiple, maybe it's two. Again, I'd hate having that rural urban divide, but we are in a region where we just have so much green space in so many different communities. It could get to a point where we have individual members advocating for their own parks, really not thinking of the regional aspect of it, or it could just be focusing on policies. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think it's a great idea. It's just difficult to think about how we would get to a place where we have a committee thinking about our regional parks. Anyway, I support it. I know there's some things to think about, and look forward to seeing what the report is.
All right. Thank you so much, Councillor Smith. Any further comment? Yes, Councillor Purdy.
Thank you. Yeah, just with this idea, kind of to tag on to what Councillor Smith has just said, I'm wondering if there's a way to kind of connect with schools in the area and maybe develop, some stewardship with some of the students who may be interested in taking a leadership position in the community. I mean, there's so many different ways something like this could work its way out logistically. See lots of great ideas that could be utilized, not just with adults in HRM, but like with schools, for example, or community groups, and getting
Very good, great idea. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Councillor Purdy, and Councillor Austin to close.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Chair, and thank you, colleagues. I think Councillor Smith hit the nail on the head there with there's a lot of different ways that this could be structured. I mean, it's, the motion structure on a regional parks committee, but I mean, my approach with motions is always, staff are smart people, and they can go out and mull over a problem. And I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with what comes back as a recommendation saying, well, you know what, regional is, your scale is going to be too large. Maybe we should have 3 of these, and there's one for each community council area as a way to sort of handle it. Because there is challenges of community of interest. The challenges I have in the Dartmouth Common are probably very different than you would find out on the edge of Cole Harbour on Bissett Road in our new park there. I just wanted to clarify too, because speaking a little off the cuff there, I think parks, we do a good job of engagement on bigger stuff. You know, if we're doing a park plan in a neighborhood, we'll hire some consultants, we'll go in, there'll be public meetings. We do a great job of that. The challenge is on the stuff, and you can't consult on everything, like, you know, should the bench go here or go there? I mean, there's a certain
Right.
point of operational, you know what, we're just managing the space, but there's a range of the stuff that's in the middle that I don't think we necessarily do a great job of engaging people on. So I think Councillor Purdy's point about engaging with the schools, I mean, depending if we go forward with an advisory committee, I think that's something we could consider as part of the terms of reference, right? You know, maybe there's some youth, some space reserved for youth. So I think you know, if we decide this is a good idea, the terms of reference piece to try and make sure that we have a cross section, and it's not just people, well, I want to be on this committee because I want to lobby for my neighborhood park, right? I mean, that is kind of actually what we, to me, need to get away from, because otherwise we'll have, what is it? We have 1,000 parks or something, right? You know, we can't have 1,000 committees. We, you know, it needs to be broader than just a specific park. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Austin. Councillor Purdy, you've got one last question?
I do. Can I just ask Councillor Austin, just for clarification, so what is the purpose of this advisory committee then? Is it to maintain the cleanliness of parks, or the planning of different ideas that could be implemented in the parks? What's the purpose? I don't think I understand that.
All right, Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Ms. Chair, for allowing me to speak a third time. So the purpose is, I mean, it's several things. It's policy and governance, right? You know, because I mean, you do have issues that come up, like my lighting strategy request the other day. You know, what is our policy regarding, you know, after, you know, evening access to parks? So you've got governance, you've got policy issues, you've got very specific planning. Well, like, you know, what's my new park going to look like? You've got real granular type decisions in terms of, well, like Pine Street in my neighborhood, one that is kind of top of my mind. Should we be continuing it as a tennis court, or should we be using it as a skateboard park? And so you've got like these kind of range of decisions. And the thing that we really don't have input into is we don't have the public involved very well in a lot of these. There isn't a forum for that. There isn't any citizen involvement. It often falls to, you know, when these sort of decisions come up that aren't high level, my experience, it often falls to the local councillor, right, to then kind of put something in their newsletter, reach out to people they know in the community, and try and get some feedback. Like, we don't have any solid mechanisms for council, citizen, and staff to all have conversations about parks. And so, you know, that's fundamentally the point of this body, to me, is to create that space so that we can go over issues that come up in our parks, such as what you just suggested, Councillor Purdy. It could be cleanliness, it could be maintenance, it could be any number of things. You know, many of our other advisory committees, if you look at the subject matter that they end up covering, it can end up quite broad. So that's the thought, like, you know, where we draw the boundaries on it, what it exactly looks like, that's what I hope to get back from staff, as, you know, they put some thought into, well, how could we best use this, and, you know, incorporate in that citizen piece.
All right. Yeah, I sort of like the idea of tying it into the community councils. So so I guess just to be clear, you're proposing sort of a planning advisory committee, a PAC for parks.
Or, you know, AT advisory or accessible advisory, right? You know, we have, you know, and we have specific advisory committees on parks, but they're very specific to geographic location. You know, you've got Point Pleasant Park and you have Western Common.
Yeah. All right. Does that answer your question, Councillor Purdy? All good? All right. Seeing no further speakers on the list, I'll call for the question.
Question.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay? Motion carried. All right, thank you very much. Moving on to 13.2, this is also Councillor Austin, and it's the Construction Mitigation Policy Strategy. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. And just FYI, you might want to turn your video off and on again. You are frozen in place.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
So this one is one that I honestly, I don't know as much about. I had hoped that Councillor Mason would have been online, so I'll put it forward. I move that the Community Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee request a staff report regarding clarifications of standards in the construction mitigation policy and Administrative Order 2018-005 ADM to 1, clarify when a temporary sidewalk will be required or a temporary crosswalk if a sidewalk or temporary sidewalk cannot be provided on one side of the street, and 2, require the reduction in the extent of the encroachment as stages of construction progress.
Looking for a seconder on this? Seconded by Councillor Smith. All right, go ahead, Councillor Austin.
Yes, so as indicated, this is more of a Councillor Mason's show, but he's not online right now. As far as I can tell, it's concerns about encroaching on the street, and I mean, I see that from time to time on social media. Dartmouth has not had nearly as much construction as Peninsula Halifax has, so it's not something that has come up quite as often in my district. But perhaps Councillor Smith, I'm sure he's got battle scars from past construction projects where you had a development on development going on two sides of the street and things entirely shut down. Sidewalk closed, use other side, pointing like this at each other.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Smith, you had a comment, sir.
Yeah, I'll try to help with this because I've talked to Councillor Mason, and it really, so for us, well, for me and Councillor Mason, he's been here longer than me, but we saw this issue really come into effect on the Goddess Street area when some of the newer buildings that have been built recently happened, and we have the bus lane there now. Plus, when the construction, because most of the property lines are right on the sidewalk, so they have to close down the sidewalk and people have to cross, and temporary crosswalks would have to be built. And one of the issues that we were running into is it was really at the discretion of the engineers and our permitting staff and all the folks within that department to determine, and they do the analysis, which is great, and they make sure they're making a decision that is based by evidence, but there wasn't a policy that really told us how we will and when we will add temporary crosswalks and how we should add them. But also the other aspect was, I had one property per se that the developer could have opened the sidewalk earlier, but they chose not to because there was no policy that said they had to. So really staff would go to them every once in a while, say, hey, are you ready for us to remove that barrier? And they said, nope, we're not ready. When really they could have been ready if staff would have said, actually, we want you to prioritize this so we can open up the sidewalk. So it really just comes down to having some policies in place where it's not really the encroacher's discretion, but this is the policy that says when you get to a certain place, you need to have the sidewalk open, or you need to create some type of pedestrian access. So if he would, or Councilor Mason, if he was here, he'd probably say it more eloquently in more planning words. But really for me, it's just having a policy that allows staff to put an equal playing field for all developers, all encroachers, and it's not just me reaching out to staff and having to go to back and forth and site walks. This is the policy. It should be done by this time. So I know that was how I interpreted it, and from the discussions I had with Councilor Mason, it might be more to it, but I know it's just being unified across the board, and we have folks doing construction.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. That was very helpful. Any further comment, Councillor Austin?
No, I'm good, Ms. Chair.
All right, not seeing any further questions on the motion. I'll call for the question. Question has been called for. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Well, now, should we go back to Let's see, 11.1, the regional plan review. I don't think Councillor Cuddle or Lovelace have joined us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can provide an update. The clerks have reached out to Councillor Cuddle. I believe both Councillor Cuddle and Councillor Lovelace are both in Halifax Water meetings, which is an external board. But we did manage to reach out to Councillor Lovelace, and I believe Councillor is comfortable letting this one go, because this will be coming back to Regional Council in a full presentation, at which time councillors will be able to ask further questions of staff.
Sounds good. All right. So thank you so much, Kate Green and team, for your patience, and appreciate you sticking through. So that item then has been dealt with. There was no motion attached to it. It was just, yes, sir.
Can I just briefly just speak to it?
Oh, most definitely. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Kate and Eric. I kind of feel a little guilty for having dragged them here. And, you know, I don't have any questions, in part because I've seen this now. This is the third time, right, in the last little while, which is good because, you know, it needs a thorough vetting. And, you know, I've had the opportunity to ask some questions already. I don't have anything top of mind today. So just wanted to thank Kate and Eric for the work off. And I see Kathleen here on the call as well. So everyone in planning that's tuned in for what has turned out to be a bit of a dud appointment for them.
All right. Yes, I echo that. Thank you so much. All right. So item 14, we have no in-camera. 15, we have no added items. No public speakers have signed up for public participation. Notices of motion. Do any members of committee have a notice of motion? No. Alrighty. So that brings us to the date of our next meeting. We will meet again on July the 15th, 2021, if required. And with that, looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move.
All right. Moved by Councillor Purdy. Thank you so much, everyone.
My specialty.
Hey.
My only one
Excellent.
specialty.
Fabulous. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Much appreciated for your time. And thank you to Simon and the clerk's office for your help this morning. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you.